I'll write out a message that says your credit card failed. Sorry, we're out of stock. If it wasn't that, it must have been the other. So I write out an appropriate message. If that succeeded, then I commit the transaction, and I close the connection, and I'm done. Now, what I haven't done here is, and if this was a good program, I would, I'm putting updating the inventory under transaction control, but I don't really have the credit card transaction inside of that transaction control. In the real world, I would. In the real world, when you have a protocol of MasterCard or Visa, that interface would be a class interface, and it would have, you would be able to include that in the transaction, and it would have a rollback command. It would automatically get executed, and it really would undo both. But we don't have that.
Is it rollback and rollback?
Say that again.
Is it rollback and rollback?
Can you roll back a rollback?
Well, no, a rollback and then rollback in essentially, or is it when you one triggers pull, does it pull rollback?
No, when you say rollback, it undoes all of them. So if I had done this correctly with a real MasterCard, it would if the database had successfully taken one out of inventory, it would have been held in a twilight state. That row would have been locked. And then if the credit card failed, it would just throw that SQL transaction away and leave the data untouched. If the credit card succeeded, it would tell SQL, okay, all's good, finish that and update the data as you promised me you would. Now the other thing that happens here is if the credit card succeeded and you say transaction commit, and just before that happens, SQL died and failed, SQL would have committed all that information to disk so that when SQL was rebooted, it would finish that command, or you would have failed the transaction because SQL did not come back and say I could commit it. The minute SQL came back and said I could commit it, it is now recorded in SQL's sort of memory that I'm going to go update that field, and it will, unless hell freezes over. Even if power failed and came back up, it has a queue of things it needs to finish, and it would do it.
So while it's checking to verify that everything is correct, the connection remains open and the hold on that inventory remains live until it's removed, right? So it'll still look like you're down one on the inventory while it's on hold or reserve.
Yeah.
But it'll add it back in if it fails.
Right. All right, so like I said, for the sake of your grade, for the sake of being able to get the next homework done, you need to finish this, and you have two choices. You can either, well, you can tell me now, grade what you turned in, and then I'll give you a good copy to start the next homework with. Or you can work on it tonight and turn it in for -3 points, and then go to the next homework. Or you can actually work on it for the next 3 nights and get a 50% score, and then start the next homework. And you have a lot of time before the next homework. It's not due until next Monday. But you will need a working copy of this, which I will give you, but when I give it to you, you're in transaction speak. You're closing the transaction, and I'm committing your score to whatever you had last submitted was. Okay? So how many of you people have ever used Mongo database? Oh, this is going to be too easy then. Have you used it locally or in the cloud?
Both.
In the cloud.
Both.
Both? Yeah. All right, so this is going to be too easy. Okay, so what we're going to do, and the way I've planned this off is, we're going to, together, go through and create a simple Mongo application that reads and writes Mongo data. Okay? then what your homework is going to be is, every time somebody clicks buy, and you go off and validate the credit card and it's good, and you change the inventory, it's good, you're gonna insert one more line of code there, and it's gonna say, log this transaction. And then you're gonna write a new method, and what it's going to do is it's gonna collect all this information, credit card number, name, blah, 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 and it's gonna write it up to the cloud into a running stream of log events, which will be the Mongo database. Okay? So, I think it's harder to explain than it is to do. And getting Mongo set up is harder than the homework is, okay? So who's not here? Raise your hand. There's 4, there's 9 of us. So he's missing.
IQ.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, she told me she was gonna be out. Yeah, okay. She'll be fine, and he'll be fine. Okay, good. So what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna go through together and build a simple project that reads and writes Mongo. And then all you're gonna have to do is basically clone those methods into this project so that you can write records up there every time there's a purchase. That make sense? Are you excited to do it?
Yes.
I knew you'd be excited. So if you go up to our SharePoint site, why does this look the way it looks? There's something up here called Folder 5, using SQL to process our data. And in there is a folder called Logging Orders to Mongo. And in there are 2 things. One is a PowerPoint that talks about how we're going to do it and sort of defines the homework. And then the other one is a simple program that actually does it. So download both of those and let's see if we can get Mongo working. We want to use Mongo Lab Cloud DB from within ASPX. Okay? Charlie probably made it easy and let you do it from within Node.js. Anybody can do it in Node.js. It takes a real programmer to do it from ASPX. So the goal is to use MongoDB in the cloud. We're going to extend our homework. Every time they buy a CD, we're going to log the purchase. And then we're going to add a new ASPX page so that we can read the orders and read the log and see what's up there.
We have to see.
So you'll need to create a Mongo Cloud account. So to do that, if you haven't already, right-click here on this link and say Open Hyperlink. And this will take you here. And then you either sign up or log in, depending on whether or not you already had an account. Now, one thing I want to point out that may be a point of some confusion. You should, in my opinion, wind up with 2 accounts in Mongo. One account is you're like the system manager. You own this Mongo account. You're the one that has to fork over a credit card and pay for if you create a huge database. Okay. Now we're going to have a small database, so it'll be free. All right. You don't use that account programmatically. All right. What you'll do then is you'll create what we call a user account with a new name and a new password, and that's the account we will embed in our connection string to access data. Don't use your system administration one, okay? If somebody hacks this second account, all they can do is read and write your one table, right? If they hack your other one, they can start adding gigabytes of data and costing you money. All right. So what I would like you to do is, if you haven't already, create an account and remember what your account and your password is. And that's your, like, consider that your system management account, okay? And then, somewhere, and I'll find it in a minute, there's an option to add a user account. And then you'll add a new name and a new password, not password. And that'll be the one you want to remember, and we'll embed into our code. And then we're going to add a new collection, and I would prefer if you called it contact list, and that'll make the code, so you can cut and paste code more easily. What we're going to do is we're going to make a simple program that generates a contact list up on the cloud. And then we'll look at my console project and see if we can get it working. Okay. Now, does any of this not make sense to anybody? I think you've probably done this already, at least once or twice in Charlie's class. Now, if you've ever done Mongo with me before, what I used to do was I would download the C# driver and create a new DLL, and then add that DLL to my project as a reference. It was kind of a pain, but now you'll see later we can just use NuGet, and NuGet will pull it all down and install it for you. It's really quite nice. This article, which I sort of used to do it, it's doing something different, and it's doing it in a different way. It's using an MVC controller, but it has the guts of what I needed to do it. So you probably won't have to look at that article, but if you ever wanted to see what we're actually doing, you could find some references to it there. So that's all we need from this. So let's go back to Mongo. So I'm going to log in, and this is going to be my system management account. You can't log in here with the user account. I think I'm just plain old KFriedrich. So I have one database up here, and my database, when I created it, is called KirkMD, which stands for Kirk Mongo Database. Okay. If you don't have a database, then you want to create a new one. You can call your database whatever you want, just make sure you remember what it is. And then, once you have it, if I click on it, several important things happen. The first is, it shows me collections. So in SQL world, you might think of this as tables. I have 4 different tables in this one database, okay? The only one we're going to be using right now is called contact list. When you get to the ASP program, you'll have another one called orders, but that'll be later. But you can add as many collections as you want, and they're just a string of kind of what look like JSON files. All right. Now, the other thing is, you really need to cut and paste and remember this second string. There's a Mongo shell, which would be like using SQL Server Management Studio. We're not going to do that. We're going to be using a driver connection. And this string here, you need to remember. And what it says is Mongo : / the name of the user not the user you just logged in, but the new one we're going to create, / the password you're going to create. And then it says @ds blah, blah, blah. That's the name of a real server. Mongo Labs has a bunch of servers someplace and they have real names. I happen to be on that particular machine. You'll have a different number. And then .mongolabs.com, so that gets you to the web, to Mongo Labs site, and then that gets you to a particular machine. And then the 536528 is, I don't know, there's probably a port number? Probably is a port number. And then /CurtMD is the name of my database, all right? So you'll have a string like that, cut and paste it, save it along with these names and passwords, you'll need them, okay? Now the only other thing we don't have here is you haven't created a new user. And we need to do that. And where do we add a new user? I'm gonna go back to the previous page. Oh, it says create new. There's like a lightning flash here. I click that. Wait a while.
Isn't that for creating a database?
I hope I'm not creating a database.
Go into the thing. Just hold up the database.
Pardon?
To create a user, go into the database. Back.
Yeah, so I don't want that.
Go into the database.
Go here?
Yeah. And then add user.
Where it says user here?
Yeah.
Okay, users. And then here's the add database user.
Yeah.
So my one that I'll use in my program, which I don't mind if you read and write my data, is called KFriedrich user. My account is KFriedrich, my system account, and then I made this user account. So in the real world, you might have 5 or 6 different databases, and each of them might have 5 or 6 different collections, and you might have 25 different usernames you use for different ones. Is anybody lost? Okay, I think we've been here an hour, so why don't you take a break and we'll start when that clock points to 2. And hopefully by then everybody will have their database and they'll have their strings, and then we'll open up this project that's sitting Mongo Simple 2016 zip. And hopefully we can all get that running and we'll go through how it works. Do it right now, but make sure you pull that new PowerPoint down, because it has one important step that you need when you do your project. Specifically, how you get the driver installed by using NuGet. You all know how to use NuGet? Anybody not know how to use NuGet? Oh, okay. So, from now on, probably starting a year or 2 ago, anytime you want to include a whole bunch of software from some other library, this is just like someone, what do you call the node? You say, you create like a config file with node, a package, and then you say npm and install, and it pulls packages from all over the world. Well, Microsoft's version of that is called NuGet. So if you go up here to tools, one of them is called NuGet Package Manager. And there's 2 flavors of it. One is the simple console where you give it commands, and the other one is called Package Manager, and it shows you all the ones you have, and it lets you get the latest updates and do all kind of stuff. We'll just do this, and you wait until it done, and then it gives you a prompt, and it says, hey, here I am, Package Manager, and then you install this. Now you don't have to do this for this code because it's already done. You just paste that in there, and if I run it, it's probably going to tell me that it's already there. Well, it was happy. It just did it again. Anyhow, so that's how you install software now into your application from other sources. Quite nice.